Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodville at Scottsdale Police Department. With me is Chris Vasal, our Community Liaison. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Good. Today we've got a second part of what was a great
federal partners,
which is, as far as I'm concerned, some of our best programs have been the recent program, and this one's going to be because we're talking to our federal partners about all the great work that we do in partnership together. And I think it's an opportunity for the citizens to see something they would not be able to see.
We're very lucky to have our guests here today and for them to commit time to come into our studio to talk to us and tell them some pretty important information.
Absolutely. So welcome, guys.
We're really glad to be here.
We appreciate it. And David Gonzalez, who's the Arizona Marshal for Arizona, U.S. Marshal for Arizona, has been a guest on our show before.
I have, yes.
What did we talk about last time? Do you remember?
It was very important stuff. I know I think we were talking about different crime issues that affect not just Scottsdale, but the entire community and state.
Yes,
right.
And we're going to do some more of that, but we were really excited that you took time out of your busy day to be with us today, and thank you so much for doing that.
You're
I
welcome.
know sometimes you guys do a lot of traveling, and it's great to have you here. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mickey Lettingham is the Assistant Special Agent in charge for ATF,
Yes,
Alcohol,
that's true.
Tobacco, and Firearms. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having us. I appreciate having me.
If you wouldn't mind starting out telling us a little bit about your background and your position.
Sure. Well, I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge. My area here is in Phoenix, Arizona, this area here. I've only been here about 7-8 months, so I'm fairly new in the area, enjoying the heat, obviously.
Turned up for you.
It was hot today.
Yes. Coming from Washington, D.C., so anything was better than being in Washington, D.C. I'd previously been assigned to Washington, D.C. at the Special Operations Division as a deputy chief there, where I oversaw our national programs and undercover branches, OCDF, Technical Operation Branch, Digital Operation Branch, a lot of our national programs there. So I was happy to leave Washington, D.C., and I'm happy to be in Phoenix with my family, and it's all good.
There's been a common theme among our
so
federal
funny.
partners
Yeah.
about Washington, D.C. And by the way, it's Washington, D.C., not Washington. Washington, D.C., which is where I'm from. And this time of year, it's August, this time of year, it does get muggy.
Hot. My son lives there, so I know when we go there, you're just sweating. You're just soaking wet. You think it's hot here? For those of you who have moved here from back east.
Yeah, they know. And so we talk about the Four Seasons. People miss the Four Seasons. I do not miss the Four Seasons.
We
Get
have
in the car,
hot and
drive
less
2 hours,
hot.
and you can see any one of the Four Seasons you want to see. So welcome to town.
Well, thank you very much.
Glad to have you.
We enjoyed it here. We
Thank
absolutely
you.
been enjoying it here.
And David, a little bit of your history again?
Yeah, I was appointed U.S. Marshal approximately 13 and a half years ago by President Bush originally, and then reappointed by President Obama. The U.S. Marshal's Service is interesting in the fact that all of the federal law enforcement partners, the heads of the offices come through the ranks. The U.S. Marshal's Service is the only federal agency where the head of the office is appointed by the president. That goes back to 1789 when the Marshal Service was created, and President Washington appointed the first 13 U.S. Marshals.
Neat.
And that has gone on through the history of the country. But prior to that, I was a career officer with DPS. Started off as a highway patrolman in Tucson, born and raised in Flagstaff. Went to transfer to narcotics, moved to Phoenix as a lieutenant, and then went through the ranks to be a high-ranking officer with DPS, and until I was appointed U.S. Marshal by President Bush.
That's a long time.
That is cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I knew a little bit of David's history, but that's a long time to have that position. That's really it speaks loudly to just how successful you've been in that position.
Well, there are 94 federal districts in the country, and the president appoints the U.S. Marshal for those 94 districts. And usually when there's a change in administration, they sweep out all the appointees and new ones appointed. But I was fortunate enough to be reappointed by President Obama, which was good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's good for us too, by the way.
Yeah,
because we've got an amazing
Continuity.
working relationship.
Yeah.
And we've done some task forces
Yes.
together. I don't know if we're currently doing one
Yes.
or not. There's one going on as we
Yes,
speak.
there is, yes.
Okay. And so what are we looking at when we do task forces?
Well, with the U.S. Marshal Service, and we also do this with ATF and all our other federal partners, our primary responsibility is to hunt down fugitives, both federal fugitives and state and local fugitives in our task forces. And currently, we're putting a big emphasis, and a lot of the federal agencies are, and the police chiefs, on career criminals that really create havoc in communities. And there's a lot of things causing that, Alan, as you know, is you have a lot of people coming out of prisons. you put prisoners in the front door, people can come out in the back door, and because of overcrowding, a lot of states are giving early out to prisoners. Also, we have just in Maricopa County, we have approximately 27,000 felony fugitives or cases just in this county alone. And think about this: you have a fugitive out in your community. They have to survive. And they survive by stealing your ID, burglarizing houses, selling drugs, doing armed robberies, doing strong armed robberies, and they affect every community in the valley. So it's important that we get those individuals off the street, because we've seen fugitives that will commit 6, 7, 8 burglaries a day to survive. And having been a victim of a burglary myself, and you know how that feels when someone someone's in your house or someone that steals your car. You really feel like you've been violated. So it's important to us to get those individuals off the street, and you have to identify those individuals that are most violent first, and go after those individuals. And we do that on a daily basis. And we arrest about 7,000 fugitives just in this district alone, with the help of ATF, Scottsdale PD, and all our other federal partners.
You know, it's interesting, but if we talk about this, sometimes people think they're a city of themselves.
Right.
And so much of the things that impact our safety of our city is impacted by what's going on around us.
Absolutely.
And so I've always maintained, I don't really care who makes the arrest. When I was the chief of detectives and they talked about arrest, I said, I don't care about how many arrests you made. I want how many cases you've closed. Because if you can share information with another department and they make an arrest and your case is closed, that's what's important to us. And that's what should be important to our citizens, to know that there's some closure in their case, property recovered, the person that was in their house is now identified, because part of that fear is you don't know who that person
That's
was.
right.
The neighbor next door, the kid down the street, or somebody living in another city.
Right.
And so it's really important that we look at our area in a larger view of all that's going on in the valley that may impact us and our public
Right.
safety. And so we really appreciate that, because I know our task force members go other places and participate in other other cities' issues that clearly have impact on our issues. I think that's one of the reasons crime's gone down here.
Absolutely. And and I know years and years ago, police departments would stay within their own jurisdictions, and it was a myopic kind of view. But now you can't do that. There aren't really any boundaries anymore when it comes to the crime issues.
Right. We have a freeway that goes through all our cities, and you can go from Mesa all the way to West Phoenix. So in 10, 15 minutes. So yes, of course, they travel highways as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have the Southeast Gang, or the Southeast Violent Task Force, which you participated with. One of your officers is a part of that, which is housed in Mesa, but exactly the same thing. It's Scottsdale, Tempe, Mesa, and then now we have the State Patrol involved as well, and just going after the shooters, basically, these people that are using firearms, commit violent crimes, trafficking firearms. Obviously, those are heading south into Mexico most of the time, and then that obviously is always associated with trafficking narcotics as well. So we thank you for allowing us to have one of your officers to allow us to come in and affect your community as well with that task force.
So, one of the things that has us concerned, obviously, as in law enforcement, is you've got two task forces working at the same time and making sure you communicate with each other and we don't conflict. And so, and that's one of the things I think really works well here. Some parts of the country, they're not going to speak to each other.
They don't work.
Yeah, they don't work well together. But here, there's actually that communication saying, we're working on this, and you give space to work on that, or else you say, well, we also know this, and add the information that's necessary to bring them to successful conclusions. So, because I know both the task forces are going on basically at the same time.
Yeah. And you hit on a key issue there, and you don't see it in other parts of the country, but tackling a big issue like crime, the key is, and the foundation is sharing information, developing relationships. That's how a lot of things get done. And you look at just businesses and anything else. You need to communicate properly and share information, and we do that well here in this state.
So we have a great history with ATF in that we had a package bomb delivered now, my goodness, 9 years ago now. It's been 2004 already, and it's amazing how time goes by so quickly. That's 11 years. It's kind of hard to believe that. where it was a great partnership. It was a 5-year plus long investigation, resulted in the arrest of a couple individuals, and one eventually went to prison. I think the other one was found not guilty at some point.
He was acquitted, yes.
Yeah, and so it was a long, lengthy investigation. So sometimes our viewers think that things like can be dealt with almost like overnight.
Yeah, it's
when
not.
can our case be closed?
It isn't TV.
But some of these cases require a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of detail-oriented investigation. And so I know that you guys are really involved with us when we require that kind of work and that kind of tedious investigation.
And actually, we showcased that, and for our citizens that would come to PD headquarters to come to our museum project, ATF was kind enough to do a replica of that incident for us and actually put it in. We have it in our museum to actually show,
of the explosive device.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
nice.
thank you so much. It's being displayed in our headquarters buildings as we speak.
Yes,
so
that's just a great success story of a long-term. As far as working together, I know there was multiple different investigative techniques used there that took time. It takes time, and then not even that. I think the trial went on for almost 2 years too. I believe before it was all. So it all takes time.
It all takes time,
Yeah,
and I'm just surprised it's 11 years already.
yes.
Yeah. So David, what kinds of things have we got going with you in the near future?
Well, it's interesting. You should ask that. I don't know. But, as far as the Marshal Service goes, we'll continue with. Some of our other responsibilities are the Witness Protection Program, which is a fascinating program, and where people come into the program who help the government, and if they didn't come to the program, there would be some dire, issues going on with those individuals. Also, we are responsible for all pretrial prisoners, all federal prisoners. As of this morning, I have about 5,000 federal prisoners in custody. And that is a big job. Most of them are held in a private prison about 70 miles from here. Now, it's the only option I have to put 5,000 prisoners, no place else to put them, and it's very expensive. It costs about $8 to $10 million a month of our tax dollars doing that. Also, we're responsible for protecting federal judges and the courthouses. Those federal judges make send a lot of people to prison. They also make some very interesting decisions, complicated decisions, and people get upset with them. So they get a lot of threats. So it's our responsibility to follow up with those individuals, and wherever that can happen across the country or across the world, we have to follow up on those.
And transporting prisoners around the country, you're doing that as well.
Yeah, with federal prisoners, we have we call Con Air. It has another name internally, but. We have basically an airline service that crisscrosses the country, moving prisoners to places they need to go, either for court or those who have been sentenced that are going to the facility that they've been assigned to.
And you're responsible for it. You are the U.S. Marshal for the state of Arizona.
For the District of Arizona.
Yes. And so you have you must do a lot of traveling in the state.
Oh yeah, we have offices obviously here in Phoenix, one in Tucson, one in Yuma, and one in Flagstaff.
Okay.
And you have to get through all those, and also the partnerships that we have with in the Pima County area, and from Yuma to all the border counties and chiefs of police there. So, and even to the Indian country, you're crisscrossing the state and spend a lot of time in D.C., which I'm sure you do a lot also, having to do that.
And so, Mickey, you're the assistant special agent in charge. And your office is in Phoenix, but ATF itself, is it located as a state office, or do you have several states?
We actually have 2 states. So the Phoenix Field Division actually oversees New Mexico and Arizona. Okay. So we have both of those. We have offices in Las Cruces, in Albuquerque. We have Roswell, I think. Excuse me. We may or may not have somebody in Roswell right now. We had agents satellite in Roswell. Tucson, we have several groups in Tucson, Sierra Vista, Flagstaff. We have a satellite up there, so we're spread out, and there's a lot of travel, and nothing happens at a convenient time or convenient place. So a lot of the agents have to travel all over the state, especially New Mexico, big state for not so many agents to have to cover.
So can you maybe tell us, our viewers, like some of the things that you would like them to be aware of, or some of the things that ATF could use some help in, and as well as the Marshal's office?
Well, as far as our obvious biggest emphasis is violent crime, and firearms trafficking, especially that's very prevalent in this area of the country, where people are coming in with large sums of money and dropping large sums of money on to buy weapons that are being trafficked over into Mexico to use in the cartels wars and the different between the two cartels in Mexico. Unfortunately, that happens all the time. Our people are, my agents are out, tracking guns down all the time. I mean, literally every weekend I'm getting calls. It never stops. This is kind of a hub. So that type of information, if they see something suspicious and see odd things as far as purchasing of firearms, it just doesn't fit. I'm not talking about the law-abiding citizens, just an avid gun collector, which I think the chief likes firearms as well. And I enjoy firearms as much as anyone else, but I'm talking about things that look suspicious. Those are always good. And of course, any violent crime, they're suspected of, it's going to deal with firearms to. I would suggest maybe not even call us, but call 911 or call the local police immediately, those type of things, and sure we could always get involved and help with the officers and furtherance of that investigation of where these firearms are actually coming from.
One of the things I think might be a challenge, because unlike I think any of the other guests we've had in terms of our federal partners, is that when it comes to state laws, there are different state laws with firearms in different states than there are in anything else. I mean, I'm sure your business is probably the same in any of the 50 states. And I'm sure the FBI and DA, although there's some new changes obviously in marijuana laws that probably cause them some concern. You literally have different laws in different states about firearms.
But that's not such a bad thing either.
No.
It actually helps us, because we're actually deputized also through the state here.
Okay.
So our agents can actually file their cases through the state. We use the AG's office here frequently, the county attorney's office frequently, and he almost gives us a bigger, a wider spectrum of charges we can charge people with. That maybe are quicker to get somebody off the street quicker, and then maybe pursuing the federal prosecution.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah. David.
Another issue that I would like to touch on is that affects my office tremendously and helps other agencies is a lot of fugitives will flee to Mexico since we're so close. And I know, Chief, you've had some high violent cases where suspects, once they were identified or once they committed a murder or rape or some other violent crime, would flee to Mexico. I have 8 full-time deputy marshals that work full-time with our Mexican partners to get those fugitives out of Mexico.
Extradite them back.
Yeah, get them back, because like as I mentioned, if you're a victim of a crime, and to know someone's out there on the loose, and the police know who they are, and they're just out there, it's not good for our criminal justice system. So we find hundreds and hundreds of fugitives that have fled to Mexico, and working with our partners there to bring them back to face justice back here in Maricopa County or wherever the case is from. And we do that every day. And it can be very difficult because we have 2 different systems in the U.S. and Mexico, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about developing relationships and establishing trust. And we do that every day with our Mexican counterparts to get those fugitives. And there are literally tens of thousands of them that have gone to Mexico to avoid prosecution in the U.S. So it's a huge job for us, and that we take very seriously, because a lot of those victims here in Scottsdale or where have you, they need closure on that crime, and like I said, it weakens our criminal justice system when you have those fugitives that are on the loose.
So David, you're responsible for all extradition for all of the 50 states? Your officers, or are you just doing Arizona?
I just have Arizona, but
Wow.
because of being so close to Mexico, all the other districts in the country and also other cities, city police chiefs or sheriffs will call us and say, hey, I got a case. Could you help us find this guy?
Oh, yeah.
We really need to find him. So we're really good at finding people, and then that's half the battle. The other half is getting them back, working within the Mexican law system to get them back.
So our viewers, if they know somebody that's a felon or somebody that is not being, hiding or whatever, the best thing for them to do would be call the U.S. Marshal to tell them, or to call the local police, or what would you suggest that they do for something like that?
I would call your local police, or they can call us, but just call your local police right away, and because those individuals are out committing a lot of crimes while they're out there, and you know, the quality of life, and we've seen you deal with it all the time. And I'm going to give you an example. We had a couple of your citizens recently. This was 2 weeks ago. Was calling citizens in Scottsdale. They're preying on the elderly, and was telling them that they didn't show up for federal court, and that they had to pay a fine, but they could take it over the phone, and some people fell for it. And so we got on that case.
One. We didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
You didn't hear, yeah.
Actually, I did hear
You
that.
hear
Oh,
about
that
this?
one. We didn't.
did.
Yeah, I didn't hear that one.
And so we tracked it down, and you're not going to believe this. The guy that was doing, and a lot of people do these kind of scams, but this guy was in a state prison in the South doing it from his jail cell.
I'm impressed you actually located somebody, because these things are so difficult.
Yeah,
Yes,
a lot
we
of-
talked about
online,
that
yeah.
last month.
Wow.
Because a lot of these people are in Russia or
Right.
someplace like that.
Right.
This is different. This guy was sitting in a prison cell.
So he gets to use the phone once a day, and he's making these phone calls.
Yeah, he's making,
And people are, you know, we always say,
Yeah.
we did a show last month with our fraud unit to say some of these scams and how the IRS was calling them and say they
Yeah.
owed money, they need to go
Exactly.
to the Walmart
Yeah.
or the CVS
Right.
and put
Exactly.
this money
That's
in
what
and
they were
everything.
doing, yeah.
And we're just like, don't do this. If it sounds too good to be true, or if they're going to try to give you money, you won the lottery, don't do it.
Exactly. And the government's never going to ask for personal information, credit card information. They're not going to do that, regardless. So, but some people,
It's
you know,
scary stuff.
It is scary stuff. Yeah.
But this guy's doing it from a jail cell.
and from a jail cell is really,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Well, thank you for catching him.
Yeah.
That's even good. Yay, yay
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
Marshal
Yeah,
Service.
well,
Yeah, good job, good
Well,
job.
thank you.
You guys involved in the case involving the New York prisoners?
Yes, our
I'm sure
office
you're
is
involved.
very heavily
Yeah.
involved in that case, and you know, we had a similar case in Arizona several years ago of some murders that escaped from a private prison at Kingman, real similar to this, but we are very heavily involved in that case, and I have some of my deputy marshals that are up there also, and that's where partnerships really come in handy with working all the local departments, all the resources that you need, and all the behind the stuff things that go on a big case like that is very, very interesting.
Yeah, you guys have been great partners.
It's
So
very
the-
tasking on the manpower issues
Yeah,
too. And you get
yeah.
that many 3 shifts, never stopping.
That's
So
right.
you have to have all the different partners, and usually that's when you see we have all the friends, when all your friends come out. It's definitely when those type of incidents occur. You have all your partners come out.
And you know, this is a very tough time for law enforcement across the country.
Yes.
And we talk about it at our meetings. I mean, the hits that we've taken to our the law enforcement reputation, some justified, some not. You know, dealing with all the issues that are maybe go along racial lines, or all the things, our mistakes are brought to the forefront immediately, and that's where the strength comes in. We have professional partners that we all can work and talk some of these things out, because one of the biggest issues going on in law enforcement right now is the hits that we're taking with the public and the perception of how we operate. That goes on. It's going to be a real challenge for us for a lot of years.
Right. And a lot of people think that stuff that happens in the movies, we always talk about it when we see cop movies. We're like, yeah, you wreck 7 cars, and then
Yeah.
you just go back to the office, and then you guys go out for dinner. It's like, are you kidding? If you put one little scratch in the car, you're like under report. You have to
Boy,
go to
that's-
driving class and everything. It's just the perception of how it really is.
So much of it is the way people get their information
Yes.
today. You know, Twitter feeds and
Exactly.
and
And the
blogging,
internet.
and opinions equal fact, and they don't have to be accurate. They don't have to be even truthful.
Yeah.
And people are accepting that as truth and
Yeah.
reality, and it takes us time to get to the bottom of investigations to be able to say what the truth is.
Right.
And we don't come out with the information right away, so people are looking for something to fill the gap, and they're taking whatever they get from the tweets and the video blasts. So we agree. We're all in that together, and the thing that's in our best. I think that's our best defense, is the fact that we are professional law enforcement organizations that work well together. You don't see the infighting, you see the cooperation, and so we don't give people the excuse to say, oh, there are problems, there are issues between
Right.
agencies.
Right.
And again, we talked about this before, that doesn't happen by accident.
No.
Right.
This is something that's been going
right.
on in this area for many years, and with every new person that comes into the state, I think we recognize it, because I was new at one time.
Sure.
We recognize that this is really a unique place, and this is a good thing.
Right.
And so I want to thank you guys for
Really.
Oh, no.
all you
Coming
do to
today
support
was
us and
awesome.
all the cooperation and work we do. We do together actually, I think, enhances public safety for the whole area, but clearly within the city of
Yeah.
Scottsdale.
Well,
So
we
thank you for
appreciate it
that.
because I don't have my own TV show, do you?
No, I don't.
So, we are, kind of nice.
No, I was going to say cannot be canceled, but the viewers might write in saying, get rid of the bum,
No,
right? Be another bum sitting here next
no,
week.
no.
Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys have been delightful guests.
You bet.
And I guess we should plug Citizens Academy, because after what we just talked about,
Yes.
a way to really find out about a law enforcement community in your city where you live is to be educated, because education is power.
Yes,
And we do that.
and it offers an opportunity not just to to meet and be exposed to the organization, but you can ask questions. And
Exactly.
so any issues you want to talk about, there's time and place for that discussion at the Citizens Academy. So
Right.
it's coming up in next month,
September.
and so
We
go
still
online.
are accepting some applications,
Okay.
so please give us a call. We would love to have you join us. We talked about it last month that we're only going to do it 8 weeks this
Oh,
time.
we're going 8 weeks, okay.
So it's going to be September 3rd through October 22nd. So please, I would love to have you in class, fill out an application, and get
Thanks.
into class.
I agree. Thank you. That about does it for this month's
Yes.
edition of Behind the Badge. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next month. Be safe. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.